Hello, everyone. I am Carla Brailey, and I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. Thank you for what you're doing. I think that this is just as more important about the democratic process. Some of you I may know, some of you don't. So I'll start off with an intro. I am a mother, I am an educator, a lifelong Democrat, and a fearless fighter. I pride myself in being on the side of many people who are oftentimes not included at the table. But more so, I've traveled and served this state as the vice chair of the Texas Democratic Party for the past 3.5 years. And so for me, in that capacity, I have worked with many candidates to push forth a Democratic agenda, but also worked with elected officials, grassroots members, which I think are important in terms of the turnout that we'll need in this election. And then I come to this work not only as an educator who's taught at every level, both and served as an administrator, but also working in Washington, D.C., where I served as the executive director of boards and commissions. One of those, I'll just add a little bit to that in terms of what the lieutenant governor does in the state. And the other is serving as executive director of community affairs for the District of Columbia as well, where I provided oversight to 9 constituency offices. Some of them included LGBTQ office, as well as reentry citizens, youth affairs, African affairs, Latino affairs, and a list of other offices. But I say that because I think in all of the work that we do, that we really have to lead this work with the understanding that we're serving people. My entire life has been dedicated to public service. I live on that public service is not an option for me, it's a way of life. And I absolutely believe that right now it was a call for me to run for this office. Right now, I really believe that our democracy is absolutely at stake. I believe that our rights are being challenged in a way that it has not in a number of years. And I think that under this particular leadership, it has failed us. And I really believe that we're going backwards and we're seeing what I would refer to as an anti-democratic movement. And so for me, I really believe that in working with Texans all across the state, I've said that Texas is not new to me and I'm not new to it. I have acquired relationships through serving as vice chair, very strong relationships that allows us to build what I would call a grassroots campaign in a way that, yes, I do believe that digital is very important. We can all, all know the impact, but I also think that the direct interaction with people on the ground is just as important. And I really believe that in order for our state to move forward, it is going to be through local. It's going to be through the local impact that we have. And at the end of the day, I think the turnout is going to be extremely important. And as a candidate, and I will say as a Black woman at the top of the ticket, but also the only Black woman to be on the statewide ticket. I think that that is important as it inspires not only women, but Black women and people who really believe in diversity and inclusion. And I think that we have to do something different with where we are as Democrats. And nonetheless, I also believe that I am the best candidate to unseat Dan Patrick. And I think at the end of the day, as Democrats, we have to just push to make sure that we have a Democrat in that office. That is absolutely essential, but we also have to have someone that can ensure that they have the relationships on the ground. And that I believe that I am most positioned to win the primary. And I'm Carla Brailey running for Lieutenant Governor. I know that you all would like to ask some questions and I have some responses.
Yes, we do have some questions. Doug Mellon asks, Dr. Brailey, you mentioned on your website that you support accurate teaching of history. Can you expand on that?
Yes, for the past, I've been an educator for 25 years. For the past 12 years, I've been at Texas Southern University. I am a professor of sociology. One of my primary areas is social inequality, race, class, gender studies. And I wholeheartedly believe that we have to create an education that is, we can kind of blanket it in terms of understanding it as diversity, but I think diversity is good when it's performed, and that's when it becomes inclusive. And I think in order for us to really offer the type of critical and creative education that we have to build a better workforce, we have to make sure that our books tell the story in a way that our students can actually see themselves, both the struggle and the resiliency that is embedded in our culture as American culture. but to see how American culture is all of our culture. Some of us were brought here voluntarily. Some of us have been brought here involuntary. But in understanding the story in which how far we come, but how far we have to go and experience a democracy, I think that's absolutely important. When you talk about that also, but I think that it also connects to the type of education that we have to ensure that all students receive, regardless of their zip code. It is absolutely important that our students are exposed. They're exposed to whether it's academics, whether it is extracurricular activities, whether it's giving them an option of maybe not going directly to a four-year institution, but letting them see the power in the and what's associated with going into the vocational training. All of that is important, I think, for us to build towards a better workforce. And we know that if we have a better workforce and a workforce that is also inclusive of training and energy and different new industries that are folding that will also be connected and folded in our curriculum in school, then that makes us have a better home, a better state of Texas. Hopefully, I think I asked, but, let me just say this, and so I won't talk over, the anti-critical race theory that we see that is coming from the other side. We know that that is around messaging, and we have to get beyond that, and we have to want to tell the truth and tell the facts. And when we do that, we also highlight everyone's culture in a way that we can embrace it, and people, the students, can embrace it as well. So my entire life has been built around addressing social inequality and embracing social justice. So I wholeheartedly believe that the books that are introduced, the curriculum that's introduced for our students, should embrace them. And let me say another dynamic. Texas has $1 billion industry when it comes to textbooks. And so what happens in Texas really does happen around the nation. And so that's why it's even more so how we educate our students in Texas also literally dictates what some other states are going to be adopting and what they are going to introduce their students to. So that is why we have to do better in the state of Texas as well.
We do have one last question, and we have about half a minute. Dr. Brailey, how would you go about getting bills passed with the goal of implementing a plan to train law enforcement on issues regarding diversity and inclusion?
Oh, wonderful question. It's no secret that when we are able to win many of these positions statewide, that at the end of the day, the House will not be a majority Democrat and nor the Senate. So we have to be able to work across the aisle. We have to bring civility back. And I think that, you're going to see on both sides, we want to make sure that we have a law enforcement that is going to not only be diverse in its practices, but diverse in, the hiring. And at the end of the day, we have to widen that stakeholder table. We have to have committees that are going to demand that we have training, and training that also includes, before you get to that, in terms of how we're recruiting officers. Oftentimes we're recruiting officers outside of the communities in which they serve. And so we have to put in practices that will not only provide the training, but also introduce them to, if they are going to be working outside of their communities, introduced to the communities in a way that there can be a higher level of trust between officers and police. At the end of the day, all people are human. And we need to be treated with the utmost dignity and respect. And quite frankly, any officer that is not upholding that we should take the action appropriately to ensure that they're not serving
Thank you so much.
our communities.